In the previous episode, we toured Palazzo Ducale through the more exclusive secret itinerary where we saw the prison where Casanova was held and later escaped, as well as the administrative center of the 1,000-plus-year-old Republic Venice. Our adventure of Venice will go on as a grab a panino at Palazzo Ducale's cafeteria and continue the exploration of what the floating city has to offer. Alright, so that was it for the Dog's Palace. Sorry, Doge's Palace. And it was a pretty interesting site. I highly recommend checking it out if you're here in Venice. I think this place and also Basilica di San Marco, those are the two must visits. Okay, now we've done that. And if you been wondering about the island behind me, actually that's where I am heading now. And again, you're gonna hear a familiar name which appeared in one of the previous episodes. You wanna make a guess, or if you prefer, keep watching. To reach the island, you need to catch Vapoletto number 2 from the Vapoletti stop that's right next to the Bridge of Sighs. Remember this because I went to the other direction and wasted 20 minutes of my precious time in the never-ending Venetian tourist crowd. So after taking Vaporetto number 2, I have arrived on an island right across from Piazza di San Marco. And so the island, you can probably see it from anywhere in the San Marco area. So the church behind me, this is Chiesa di San Giorgio Maggiore. If you remember in one of the previous episodes, we went to the city of Vicenza. So this church was designed by no other than Vicenza's very own Andrea Palladio. So this is one of the examples of the works of Palladio here in Venice. So if you won't get a chance to see Vicenza, which I highly recommend, this is one of the places you can certainly check out for Palladio's work. And of course, this is one of the best places for the view of San Marco. And it's not really crowded. I think it's only the folks with time here in Venice. Only those folks come here, and which means you're not gonna see hordes of folks who are just here for day trip or those coming from a huge cruise ship like you will see on the other side of Venice. But hey, let's go take a look inside of this church designed by Andrea Palladio. While the exterior features a typical Palladian Romanesque facade, the interior of the church appeared to be just ordinary. Still, a visit to this church certainly cannot substitute a visit to the beautiful city of Vicenza, especially if you want to see some of the best of Palladio's works, including the villa that inspired the White House and the United States Capitol building. I'll leave the links to the Vicenza episode in the description box below. Anyways, what is this? Ginseng? Then what's the whole point of traveling to this island? Well, like I said earlier, this is the place to see the landmarks of Venice with less crowd. From this unique viewpoint, you get to spend as much time as you want and maybe even spot something you wouldn't otherwise notice while fighting your way out of the hordes of tourists just on the other side of the Grand Canal. Like the old church where Vivaldi wrote and first performed the Four Seasons. Or the Lido Island, just a short ride away on the Vapoletti, where the world-famous Venice International Film Festival is held every year. After spending some time, or should I say, taking a break from the crazy tourist crowd of Piazza San Marco and Palazzo Ducale, I was ready to move again. I actually had something planned out for the afternoon, and it was the perfect time that I started making my way there. Instead of returning to Piazza San Marco, I took Vapoletto number 2 towards the other direction. The boat passed by the Giudecca neighbourhood, an island that's not connected by any bridges with the main part of Venice. We'll just see it from the boat ourselves as well. But one day, if I get a chance to return to Venice, I'll definitely go there and explore. Maybe even stay there, as the neighborhood appeared to be way more local and without any hordes of tourists. It was also my very first time seeing an ambulance boat in Venice. So the rumors were true. The ambulance, the police cruiser, the postal service, the everything are all boats on this floating city. I got off at the Vapoletto stop on the Dorsoduro side and started making my way towards San Marco. Unfortunately, I got lost again. Well, it wasn't my first time getting lost since I came to Venice. In fact, every time I got lost, I was always brought to the most hidden and pleasant corners of Venice where nobody ever tells you about in guidebooks or on travel videos. I learned that instead of focusing on how to get from point A to point B, in Venice, just get lost. Getting lost in Venice took me to the true highlights of this city that is very hard to describe where they are, because I wouldn't know myself. Now come to think of it, getting lost was probably the best way to explore Venice. Forget about admission-paying sites. Still afraid of getting lost? Like the famous travel writer Rick Steves says, remember, you're on an island. How bad can that be if you ever get lost? Alright, our 4th day in Italy, and finally the first gelato. Yeah, to be honest, I should have gotten them earlier. They just taste so good. Alright, I'm right now in front of another one of the landmarks of Venice, the Church of Louis Vuitton. Sorry, it's the Basilica di Santa Maria della Salute. So this is the church that's right by the Grand Canal, and if you do take the Vaporetto or if you do any of those gondola rides when you pass by the Grand Canal, yeah, you're gonna see this church for sure. Alright, let's go take a look inside.
This church was constructed as a symbol of deliverance from Black Death that occurred in the 17th century when the pandemic wiped out 1/3 of Venice's population. The long-lasting aftermath of the deadly plague is still deeply embedded in the identity of Venice today, as one very popular type of mask worn during the Venice Carnival is none other than that of a plague doctor. Interestingly, I was supposed to be in Venice back in 2020, only to be delayed until now because of another pandemic. My plan for later this afternoon actually was something I already booked and paid for back in 2020, and only now I'm able to make it and experience it in person.
Alright, so now actually I do have an appointment at 4 p.m. today, and it's already 3. So I'm kind of in a rush because the place I'll have to be is in the very north of Venice, and now it looks like it doesn't really give me any time to see more sights, but I'm kind of in a hurry, so I'm looking for probably it's time to get a gondola.
There are these traghetti, gondola boats you could take for cheap just for crossing the Grand Canal. However, after waiting there for about 15 minutes, nothing showed up. Fortunately, there was the Ponte dell'Accademia just nearby that would help me to run all the way from Dorsoduro to the Cannaregio neighbourhood in the north, without the need to go all the way to the Rialto Bridge like how Venetians in the past had to do, as it was the only crossing spanning between the two sides of the Grand Canal.
That's why.
Yep, it was me. In 2020, I booked a rowing class with Row Venice, a non-profit program run by a local women's rowing club. Because of the global pandemic, I wasn't able to travel to Venice and participate. Prior to this Veneto adventure, I reached out to Rowing Venice again, and they gladly honored my booking more than 2 years later, since the world changed forever. However, you think rowing a gondola is as easy as it appears to be? Think again. Not everything you see on social media or photos are real. You wouldn't know how hard it was until you actually try it yourself. Here are some actual footages of how Mr. Sayu Rinpoche sucked as an apprentice gondolier.
It's sure getting choppy. And I kind of forgot, or is it? Okay, let's do it again. There we go.
You might just twist it flat at the end. Just roll it up. Relax the yaw. Let it flatten at the end of the
Flatten on the end? Yeah, okay.
Go twist it, twist it, twist it. Slice through the water, get it back in.
There we go.
Okay, when you're ready, take the stroke. And flatten. And push, twist. Don't put it in the water until you take it. I need you to start pushing now. Can you push? Right, 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 right. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Hang on. Stop. Stop.
Okay.
Keep going. says to roll, twist slightly at the end. And push and roll slightly. Just enough so it doesn't catch.
That feels better. Never mind. Okay.
You good?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, maybe I was never meant to be a gondolier. I better stick to traveling and sharing travel stories with you with my camera. Our Venice adventure will continue as we leave for the outer islands in the Venetian lagoon that are just as fascinating as the city itself. What will we see? Follow me to the next episode.